Welcome to my pod class, The Learning from a Student's Perspective. My guest today is Michelle Delaney. She's a graduate student at Tulane University pursuing her master's in business analytics. Welcome to my pod class, which is essentially an attempt to make a podcast, an imaginary podcast. So Michelle, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So today's topic is Tableau, and the idea is how do we make it a little easier for you to access the software and navigate a little bit at the start. So we're not trying to teach you a whole lot today or in this short segment. It's just the first of several parts when we're going to go in and try and make this transition into Tableau a little easier for you. So without further ado, let's give this a try and see what happens. So one of the first things we wanted to tell you is kind of the background of Tableau. It became the #1 analytics platform. Usually sits on top of a data warehouse where people in their organization can extract data and look at it in a visualization and analyzing kind of mindset. Recently, in August of 2019, they were purchased by Salesforce, which is the #1 customer relations management software, and in hopes that the two together could kind of turbocharge both. So that's the setup. I have 3 things I'd like for you to learn from this opening. The first one is think about and recognize how you're learning a new software. The challenge is that once you see something in academics, it changes shortly after you've seen it the first time. So learning how you learn is a key part of this exercise. Second, Michelle's going to take us through the 3 elements of Tableau's start page, or what I call the home screen. And then she's going to go through some of the key elements of a Tableau worksheet, which is where you actually get your stuff done. So that's where that's where we are, and that's what we're after right at this point. So we'll move on. So the first thing you have to be able to do is install Tableau, and hopefully you've been able to do that. It's fairly straightforward, I think. You just have to use that link. Did you have any trouble getting it done?
No, I never did. Once you click the link, it's really straightforward from there. Once you choose whether you have a PC or Mac, it's a direct link to download it.
Well, it sounds like maybe even I could do it. So, and I did. So anyway, when you open it for the first time, you get this opening page, this start page, and there's several pieces of this that Michelle needs to tell us about. So navigate around this start page for us.
So the first big piece is the Connect panel. The Connect panel is where you'll be choosing the type of file that you'll be opening on your computer. I'd say for accounting, the most popular would probably be Excel because it has and holds so much data. At the bottom of that is Save Data Sources. So that is what Tableau has as sample files for you to use just to practice. And then the To a Server is the different files that you can have from a server. So I'd say a lot of big companies use that section, but today we'll be mainly focusing on the Save Data Sources, and then in class you'll be using the To a File and then Microsoft Excel section. Next,
but also one of the main files we're going to use down here in Save Data is going to be that Superstore data.
Yeah.
So make sure you know where that one is, and because we'll refer to it on an ongoing basis. Okay.
The next section is the Open section. So once you've already started working on some files in Tableau and have them saved, that's where your old files will appear, just for easy access to open them. And then that's pretty much it with that section. And then the Discover section is something Tableau has to just give you more resources for learning. They have some great training videos as well.
Yeah, I would certainly say that their training videos are really solid, especially for some of the mechanics. Because we're just trying to give you more of an overview and help you get through the introductory parts of this. So one of the things that happens right away is the idea of comparing, can I do it in Tableau versus should I be doing it in Excel? And so if I looked at the Superstore data that we talked about just a minute ago, if I pulled it up as an Excel file, it would look like this. And as most Excel files do, they kind of are messy until you decide how you want to format it. There's a lot of pieces to it, but everything is referenced in row and columns. Now, in this case, the columns are going to be what we'll call variables moving forward, And then those kind of variables, Tableau will look at in different ways. And then down the column side, the row side, each one of those is a different observation. So you'll wind up with a variety of observations, all including the same variables. So that's the setup for that. So if I go back to this, Michelle wants you to go in and do what?
So you're going to go to that bottom section, the Save Data Sources that I mentioned, and click the Sample Superstore data. And then once you do that, it will bring you to this opening page in Tableau. So that has the Superstore data set opened up, and you can see that in the top left corner. It says the Sample Superstore under the Data and Analytics little part there.
Okay. Yeah, right there. And you got two different things here. You got a dimensions and you got measures. What's the deal?
So dimensions are more demographic information about their customers in this data set, dates, all of those kind of details.
So it's categorical in nature. And then you got measures.
So that is sales, profit, quantity. So that's more of the numerical values.
So those are the continuous variables. Okay, and then the next thing that we need to think about probably are columns and rows.
So the columns and rows are what you're going to be using to make your visualizations. So that's what you're going to start with, and that's going to start those bar graphs and those visuals. So what you're going to do is select, for example, we'll start with under measures, sales. So what you would do to start a graph would be drag that up to either the columns or rows section, and then on that sheet 1 section, a new visual would appear.
So the visual is going to show up down in this area, and I manipulate my variables up here on the columns and rows, and I think they call them shelves in most of their literature. So that's a piece. Then what's the next most important part?
Well, also just going back 1 second. So when you are dragging those dimensions and measures to the columns and row section, they call them pills. So they come up looking like little pills, but that is what it is mentioned as in all of the Tableau videos. So just something to note. So as Professor West was just mentioning, the next most important section I'd say is the filters. So that is where you'd probably be using more of the dimensions under that filter section. For example, the order date. So if you wanted to look at a specific month or year or week, that's where you're going to have that filter in. And then lastly would be the marks section. So that is where you can drag out specific dimensions of your data to show them in different colors, or add a text bubble to note a certain movement in the graph.
Now, we'll ultimately get to this show me piece up here, but that lets you select the different charts?
Yes. So that will be something we'll mention in some other videos, but that is, once you click that, it shows all of the different chart options that you can have using Tableau.
And then finally, for this section, I want to make sure everybody's aware of the different kind of file types, 2 in particular. And so Michelle, explain the difference between these file types, or just give me 1 and 5.
So the 2 that we'll probably be using the most is the Tableau workbook. So that one stores a visualization without the source data. So that would be just the visuals without the specific Superstore data set that someone could see. But what you'd be submitting to Professor West or anyone typically would be the number 5, the Tableau packaged workbook, the .twbx, because that stores the extracted data and the visualizations so that the viewer can see it in Tableau and have access to the data, so that all that's there for them to reference.
Well, I hope that gets you off to a good start. We think this is a pretty good start for us, so we'll see what happens later. Next time, bye.